So yes, greetings, everyone. We will be starting now. Again, thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to join on a busy weekday, I'm sure, for most of our founders that are here at the moment. Great turnout. So just to start with an introduction, as you may know already, the Innovator Founder Visa is the latest category of UK business immigration that was introduced in April 2023 for non-UK residents to come to the UK to set up a business. It effectively replaces the previous routes that were available, including the innovative route and the startup visa route, and is now the primary visa category for foreign entrepreneurs looking to set up a business in the UK. And there are, since a few months, only 3 government authorized endorsing bodies that have the power to give a green light to businesses to take this route. And we are very lucky. We have the pleasure to have one of the endorsing bodies with us, David Maas, who is representing UKES, UK Endorsing Services, that's the name. And he would be presenting and telling a bit about the whole endorsing process and what to expect when you've decided to take this route. So I will, just to start with an introduction for David. David is a co-founder of UK Endorsing Services and also the founder of 7 Seed Finance. He has an extensive SME business career as a director of several well-known FMCG brands, as well as high risk end of the private equity market. He has founded 7 Seed Finance and in fact, to provide startup founders with the missing link to creating investment-ready opportunities. David works closely with business founders and London-based funds to provide access to a range of funding and has extensive business connections, not just in the UK, but globally. David secured endorsing body status from the Home Office for SSF in 2020. So his team has assessed and endorsed a wide range of business applicants under the old startup and innovator visa routes, and continue to support them through to settlement in the UK status via SSF's legacy body status. And building on this experience, he co-founded UK Endorsing Services, a unique consortium of 6 previous endorsing bodies, which secured one of the only 3 new Home Office endorsing body licenses in early 2023. And he would, as one of the 3, as mentioned, it would be, the best way to learn about this endorsing process would be straight from, one of the founders. So I will let David continue and guide us through the process.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and hello to everyone. I'm just going to share my screen now and hope that my presentation comes up. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't seem to have the full slide. I don't seem to have the full screen, apologies.
We can see it in full screen, David, actually.
Okay. Okay, everyone, let's go with this. So I'm here today representing UK Endorsing Services, one of the three licensed endorsing bodies. To apply for the new Innovator Founder Scheme, you need to first of all get an endorsement from one of the three licensed endorsing bodies, of which we are one. I'm going to tell you a little bit now about what we're going to talk about today. We will cover what is UK Endorsing Services, who are we? Of interest to most people, I guess, you know, the UKES application process, an introduction to the innovation criteria. Innovation is at the heart of this new visa scheme, and the types of endorsements that we cover in addition to the new founder scheme. And then I'm going to talk a little bit, wearing my other hat as founder of 7 Seed Finance, about the UK startup ecosystem and my experience in that. What do you need to know? UKES, as it was explained, is quite unique actually from the other two endorsing bodies. We are actually a consortium of 6 individual companies that came together to bid for one of the licenses. So we have the combined experience of 6 very, very experienced previous endorsing businesses. We are the only one of the 3 endorsing bodies that exclusively and only process and assess applications. The other 2 endorsing bodies obviously are individual companies with their own products and services. We've worked with a wide range of partners throughout the UK and overseas. In particular, we have very strong contacts with the UK universities, but also with all the support services that go with starting up a new business in the UK, like accelerators, incubators, funders, and so on. Once you've got your visa and you may need further support, then we can provide a range of added value services. And this can be anything really from helping you to set up your company to finding a sales director. It's a wide range of services that we can offer through the 6 different consortium companies. This is a very important point, the next one. UKES, and under the new visa scheme, we can only accept applications from the individual application themselves. We cannot accept applications from agents or representatives. This is quite different from the previous schemes. The reason for this is that the new scheme is very much focused on the basis that the applicant has their own original business idea, their own original business plan. This does not mean that you can't get assistance from experienced professional companies that can help you develop your business idea, develop your business plan, but you as an individual must make the application to us. We can only deal with you in terms of answering queries and questions. And it's very advisable that you have a look at our UKES website. There's a lot of useful information on there, a lot of free information and support, including, for example, pro forma, financial projections, and so on, and what you need to cover. But we're going to cover a little bit more about that today. So what's our process? Our process is as follows. First of all, you register online via the UKES website. Then you complete the UKES application form and upload all the documents required. Again, very different from the previous innovator scheme under the old innovator scheme. We have a role of actually checking individuals and checking a number of things that previously were done by the Home Office. So as you will see in a minute when we come on to the document slide, before we can consider your application, your business plan, we go through a individual personal checking process. You upload all your documents, including the business plan and any other supporting documents that you would like to use in support of your application. And then this is what we call the triage stage. Our triage team may come back to you, ask for some further details and so on. But then they will approve all your documents. And it's only at that stage that you pay the assessment fee, the application fee. The application fees are set by the Home Office. They are the same for all endorsing bodies. And so yeah, there's no variation. But we only ask you to pay once we're satisfied that you've provided us with all the necessary documentation. Once you've paid, you are then allocated to one of our very experienced assessors. And we have a wide range of assessors across the 6 different companies. You can, at the application stage, if you wish, express a preference in terms of which consortium member you would like to select to consider your application. For example, 7 Seed Finance would be one of, if you wanted us to do it, would be one of the boxes that you could tick. And that application then would then come to us. Otherwise, assessments are done on what we call a taxi ranks basis. So they are allocated to each of the 6 endorsing companies in rotation. One of our USPs is we make very quick decisions. We have a very definite process which has been specifically designed and approved by the Home Office for assessing applications, which means that you get a very fair and equitable consideration, and it's not just down to the individual background, experience and preferences of the assessor. We have 21 days to make the application, to make the decision, but we're normally making decisions within 5 to 10 working days. So we're very quick on that basis. What we need to know, I won't go through every single one of these, but as I mentioned before, there are 2 stages here. Basically, there's your individual identity checks and so on, and then there's the supporting information that you wish to use in support of the business idea that you are applying for endorsement on. One of the items here says a 2-minute video pitch. This is not compulsory, but you could use your smartphone to make a quick 1 to 2 minute video introducing yourself, introducing your business idea, a bit about your background. And this is invaluable in many respects in helping the assessor to, rather than just be looking at documents, to you know, get a sort of personal touch and understanding about yourself. So personally, I would recommend that you include it, but it's not compulsory. The other thing that I would recommend if you are applying is you pay particular attention to what's called the business questions. There are 10 initial questions relating to your business proposal. It's very easy to sort of just give some quick fire answers to these. Please give very, very careful consideration to what you're saying there, because this gives the assessor the initial sort of overview of whether or not your application could be endorsable or not. I just remind you about the 3 key criteria that the new scheme is based against. So your business proposal needs to be innovative, viable, and scalable. And we'll come on to an innovation now in a second. And as we mentioned, we'll conduct thorough identity and security checks based on the documents that you've provided. So today we're talking about the first one, the Innovator Founder New Business, and I emphasize the word new, visa route. But as an endorsing body, we can also cover these other three types of visa routes. The second one, the Innovator Founder Same Business, is for people who are currently on the old startup visa route. So they're already in the system, but they then have to go from startup to what's called Innovator Same Business, and we can assess those. We also, of course, once you've been successful and developed your business during the 3 years of the Innovator Visa, we then assess your settlement application as well. So you have to get endorsement before you can apply for residency in the UK. But hopefully after 3 years and working with you through the checkpoints, which I'll talk about in a minute, the settlement criteria, of course, is what everybody is looking to achieve. But hopefully by then we'll have got to know you, we'll have seen the progress that you've made, and you can meet the requirements at that stage. And then finally, the new scale-up endorsement visa route. This is a combination of high growth businesses in the UK that are looking to appoint skilled workers and skilled workers from overseas who have the offer of an appointment with that company. We can also look at applications for that. This is similar to, but different from, what's called the skilled worker visa route, which is also still available. Okay, what is innovation? This is the challenging question of the day. Basically, it has to be something new. So this visa route is not, I'm afraid, suitable for applicants who have a successful overseas business and want to replicate that in the UK. This is for individuals who possibly have an entrepreneurial background, but certainly have a very interesting, original and innovative new business proposal, which they want to set up as a company in the UK. Innovation is mainly checked on the basis of an organization which is run in the UK by the government called Innovate UK. Innovate UK provide funding for innovative businesses in Britain, and it may be a source of funding that your own application could also apply for. But its emphasis is on new. It has to be a new business proposal. Nobody else has got anything like it. And it has to be either serving a demand from a new or existing market. One of the things that the Home Office are particularly keen about is that they don't like what's called incidental innovation. The innovation has to be core to your business proposal. So, for example, the example that they use is if you're running a taxi business, then that is that's the core business, and you decide you want to develop an app to enable your customers to be able to book easier. That application is incidental to the core business. If, on the other hand, you might be a software engineer with a software background and you've come up with a great idea to develop a new booking system which could apply to the taxi service and market in general, then that would be your sole and core innovation for your new business. It's a bit of a difficult one, this, because it is open to interpretation, but usually we're looking for businesses that have some technology involved in them and around on the basis of the innovation. But of course, new could mean that you have a completely new approach to an existing business sector, and it may not have high technology behind it, but it's innovative in that nobody else is doing it. So we're also very happy to look at those as well. I'm not going to go through all these, but these are some of the examples of the range of added value services that once you've got your visa is approved, we can then look at helping you, along with, of course, a wide range of other professional companies operating in the system that can also help you do many of these things too. But between our 6 business partners, we have a lot of experience in these types of business activities, a lot of experience in assisting UK startups to develop from concept to full business and growth stage. Right, I'm now going to switch hats and go into my other business, my own business, 7Seed Finance. Having had a background of nearly 20 years in raising private equity for UK startups, most of the activity in the UK happens in the London area. So I was very, very keen to set up a company which could help startups in the UK regions and get some of the funding, which is very heavily concentrated in London, out into the regions, and help people start their businesses in Wales, in Scotland, in the northwest, the northeast of England, and so on. So that was my main motivation for setting up 7Seed. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a flavour for the level of activity in the UK. Over 800,000 new companies were registered in the UK in 2023. What this means is that an organisation called Companies House in the UK, which is where you have to go to register your UK company, received over 800,000 registrations. Now, many of these registrations are not actually startups. They are possibly existing companies registering a different division of their company, and a number of variations like that. But of those 800,000, around about 500,000 were actually completely new startups in the UK. There's a lot of equity activity in the startup market in the UK. And this is coming mostly from private equity funds and from private individuals as business angels. And as you can see, there's quite a wide range and volume of support. Having said that, a lot of this equity investment goes into second round or third round investments. Actually getting investments for startups is still quite challenging. So therefore, it's best to have some thought or some access to your startup funding before you come to the UK, and then look to these more active sources in the UK for your second or third round funding. It's a tough market. You know, a lot of people start businesses, but unfortunately quite a lot fail. So 1 in 5 new businesses in the UK fail in the first year. This is mainly due to the fact that the founders have not really researched and tested the market that their business is going into. So they may have fully developed their product, fully developed their technology, but unfortunately they forgot about the commercial aspect, or they didn't go into that in enough detail. So again, when you make your application for endorsement, you need to have really thoroughly tested in your own interests the viability of the business, the demand for it, and the evidence that's out there in the market that your new business idea is really needed. The investment market in the UK is virtually totally driven by tax incentives. The UK is one of the best investment tax incentives in the world. For example, individual investors or funds that qualify can get 50% of their investment back through the tax system. So you have to get your new business, if you want to raise funds in the UK, approved for what's called the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme and the Enterprise Investment Scheme. And this is a relatively simple process, but needs some experience to apply. But there are a number of good people about who can help you do this. But the tax system in the UK is very, very strong for incentivizing individuals to risk their money in new startups. There's also a lot of government-backed support and independent support for tech-based startups. So there's grants from Innovate UK that I've just mentioned, startups loan through a new organisation called the British Business Bank. So there's a lot of incentive, a lot of support through various different types of UK government organisations to encourage the build-up of startups as a key element of the UK economy. And there's also strong support for startups in terms of locally provided business support programs, so incubators, accelerators, online programs, and so on. What I thought I'd do here is I'd just give you an indication of some of the business sectors that investors are certainly looking at and putting their money into in the UK at the moment. But it's also something that the UK government looks to and sort of also suggests that endorsing bodies have in mind when they're looking at the business sectors that applicants for the new visa are applying for and their business idea is based in. And the government pay a lot of attention to this, so we as endorsing bodies also pay a lot of attention to this. Business to business, new business ventures tend to be more successful in getting endorsed than B2C, business to consumer. Business to consumer new business ventures often require very, very large sums of marketing funding and so on to get off the ground, whereas business to business tend to be a much more direct marketing approach and therefore require less investment from that point of view. So that's it from me today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it's given you a little bit of a flavor for the background. I just wanted to give you very, very quickly some quick takeaways. Applications must be made by the applicant themselves. That doesn't mean to say that you can't get help and assistance from companies such as D Global and Cybra Legal and so on, who operate in the system to provide assistance in this respect. Of course you can, but the application has to come from you. We as an endorsing body can only deal with you, and your business idea must be your own. The endorsing body's role in the system is we are an assessor. So as an assessor, we can't advise you in terms of helping you to develop your application. We can certainly answer questions where we can, and we're happy to do that. But we are an assessor, and we put our assessor's hat on, and that's our role in the system. And it must be your business idea, and it must be original. You know, you can't you can't use your existing business, which has been operating for some time, even though it might be successful. It has to be new, has to be your idea, and the other thing is this visa route is very much for individuals or teams of entrepreneurs. You can apply as a team, but each individual member of the team has to apply separately, but you can use the same business for the application. Again, I have to emphasize, you know, it's for individuals, it's not for existing businesses. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I think we'll be dealing with some questions later on, and I look forward to answering those. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. As you said, I mean, we do actually have a couple of questions already. And attendees, I would like to let you know that we will get to those questions at the end of the next two presentations that we have. But thank you very much, David, for the very informative presentation. It gives us a good idea on what is expected of the applicants while they consider the Innovator Founder Visa route, and also how the whole process looks like, and also for providing some valuable information on the UK startup ecosystem. So thank you. Up next, we have our UK immigration legal experts for D Globalist, Demetriou, and Tatiani Preifelt. They are, as I said, partners of D Globalist in the UK and also co-founders of Cybra Legal. And they would be speaking today on the UK immigration process. Just to give a little introduction on our two partners, Demetris is a dual qualified lawyer with over a decade of experience in UK immigration. Demetris has held key positions at legal 500 firms as well as the Big Fours, which yielded him invaluable insights into the challenges of immigration law and has provided innovative solutions and strategic immigration planning to multinationals, SMEs, and private clients in all sectors. As for Tatiani, with expertise ranging from implementing global mobility policies to corporate immigration advisory in the UK. Tatiani's wide experience includes companies like PwC, EY, and Newland Chase, FDI Consulting, EY Sweden, to name a few. And having relocated herself to 10 different countries, Tatiani truly understands how crucial and expedient immigration process is. So I will take the floor to our two partners and let them guide us through the UK immigration process.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Just give us a second to start sharing our screens. Okay, just 1 second. Okay. So let's see. Actually, before we do that, okay, can you see our screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's change that. All right, well, thank you for the introduction and thank you for organizing this webinar, of course. And we will also like to extend our warmest welcome to David from UK Endorsing Services. Just a few words about Cybra Legal, although you briefed everyone already a little bit. So we're a full service immigration law firm based in London. We're partners of the D Globalist network since August last year, and we've got years of experience assisting individuals with the UK visa applications in just over 30 immigration routes. We assist UK companies and multinational organizations as well with things like sponsor license applications, compliance, training, and transfers of staff. And as you've pointed out, I've personally led the immigration departments in some leading immigration practices in the UK just before establishing Cybra Legal. And on that note, I would like to introduce my co-founder, Tatiani.
Thank you for the introduction, Demetris. We, Cybra Legal, are very pleased to be presenting this webinar with the Globalist and David, our guest speaker from UKES. I'm an immigration practitioner. I have worked extensively for most of the Big Four accounting firms, both in the UK and overseas, as mentioned, with corporate immigration before co-founding Cybra Legal with Demetris. Throughout my life, I have lived in 10 different countries. So immigration is a passion as well as part of my identity and part of our firm's identity. We look forward to today's webinar, and I'll pass back to Demetris, who will conduct the first part of our presentation.
Thank you so much. So let me just move things around a bit. So the Innovator Founder Visa was introduced in April 2023. And as with the two predecessors, the Startup Visa and the Innovator Visa, the business idea on which your application now must be based on should be innovative, viable, and scalable. And this must be an idea that you have come up with or significantly contributed to. But there are three key differences between the current innovator founder routes and the previous routes. So the first one is that there's no longer a minimum investment funds requirements, although you must show that you do have sufficient funds for investment to cover the costs of executing your business plan. The endorsing bodies will carry out due diligence on the source of your funds and their legitimacy. The second difference is that you can now supplement your income when you're here as an innovator founder by taking additional employment for other companies. This is a brand new introduction to the immigration rules, and we'll cover this when we talk about the conditions of the visa. And the third difference is that there are only 4 endorsing bodies now for new applications rather than the previous 65. And these new endorsing bodies, they can charge for assessing your endorsement application at the initial application stage, the extension, and of course, settlement. The 4 endorsing bodies are UK Endorsing Services, Innovator International, Investors, and the Global Entrepreneurs Program. The first 3 are commercial bodies, and the last one is a government-run program by the UK Department of Business and Trade, and is by invitation only. Just something to flag as well is that the endorsement application is not a visa application. The endorsement is just the first step you must take before you can apply for your visa. And once the endorsement is granted, you then have 3 months to use it in a visa application. The exact endorsement application process differs between the bodies, but as a general rule, they will require a detailed business plan, financial projections, and usually at least 1 interview. But each body has its own assessment metrics. So when you apply for the Innovator Founder Visa for a new business, the Home Office will assess your application based on 2 criteria, both of which will actually be up to the endorsing body to confirm that you meet in the endorsement letter they will issue to you. So the first criterion is that your business is innovative, viable, and scalable. David talked about it extensively, but in brief, you need to have a genuine original business plan that meets new or existing market needs. For viability, your plan must be realistic and achievable based on your available resources, and you should also have the skills, knowledge, and market awareness to successfully run the business. And in terms of scalability, you need to show structured planning and potential for job creation and growth into national or international markets. So to score points for the business plan, which is the second criterion, your endorsement must confirm that you've generated or that you've made a significant contribution to the ideas of the plan, that you will have a day-to-day role in carrying out the plan, and you will confirm that you have at least 2 contact points during the period of your leave, and that you're either the sole founder or an instrumental member of the founding team. So you might be wondering, will you not score these points automatically when you apply for the visa, since the endorsing body has already confirmed that you meet them? In part, that is true, but you need to keep in mind that there are split responsibilities between the Home Office and the endorsing bodies. So while your endorsement application might be successful, the Home Office is the ultimate decision maker. So Home Office caseworkers are not expected in general to duplicate the work of the endorsing body when they assess your application, but usually there will be an element of double checking. And just to flag as well that this route is no longer available for passive investors in pre-existing businesses. In fact, if you join a company that has already registered on a Companies House, the business must not have already begun trading for this to be eligible. For the endorsement, under the same business criteria, these are the criteria that you need to meet if you're applying for an extension of your Innovator Founder Visa, or if you are switching from the previous routes, Innovator and Startup or Tier 1 Graduate Entrepreneur. So for the same business criteria, you'll be assessed against the fact that your business should be the same as the one that was previously assessed by the endorsing body at either the endorsement stage or at a contact point. You must have had at least 2 contact points during your period of leave and confirm you will have at least 2 more if you're extending or if you're switching into the Innovator Founder Visa. The business must be active, trading, and sustainable, and you must demonstrate significant progress against the most recently agreed business plan. And you must also be actively involved in the day-to-day running. Some of these criteria are objective. For example, proving that your business is active in trading can be simply done by getting documentation from Companies House, whilst others are more subjective, for example, demonstrating significant achievements towards your business plan. So how these criteria are assessed will be up to each endorsing body, but they would all expect to see further progress and achievements at each stage, and not just that your business has kept going in the same state as it was in the previous endorsement when that was given. You can switch into the Innovator Founder route from within the UK, although if you're switching from any other routes other than Innovator, Startup, and Tier 1 and Graduate Entrepreneur, you will be, you're likely going to need to meet the new business criteria because you're not already on the route. And of course, you cannot switch from within the UK if you're in any of the routes that you can see on your screens now. So if you're here as a tourist, you cannot switch straight into the Innovator Founder route, or if you're here as a short-term student, and so on. And there have been recent changes in the immigration rules whereby if you're here as a student, you can only switch from student to Innovator Founder or any other route. As a matter of fact, provided you have completed the course for which you've been sponsored to study in the UK. For settlement, you will also need an endorsement, but in this case, the endorsement is pretty much going to confirm the same things as if you were extending, for example, with the main difference that they would also need to confirm that your business is sustainable for the next 12 months. And the additional criteria you need to meet for settlement are the continuous residence requirements, which is common to all routes, and the knowledge of language and life in the UK. So the continuous residence is that you cannot have been absent for more than 180 days in any 12-month period during your 3-year qualifying period, or if you're extending during your 5-year qualifying period, etc. And the other requirement is that you need to pass a life in the UK test. Now, in terms of the business criteria for settlement, you have a number of options to choose from when the time comes to settle, but you need to meet at least 2 criteria. So one of them is, for example, you've invested and spent 50K in your business, or you've generated at least $1 million in gross revenue in the last full financial year, or you've created 10 full-time jobs for settled workers, or 5 full-time jobs where the mean salary is 25K for each worker that you've employed. Multiple founders can apply for endorsements. However, these applications will not be linked as team applications, as it happened previously with other routes like entrepreneur visas. In this case, each person must meet all the requirements for endorsement individually. They would need to apply for and receive their own endorsement and their own visa. And they would all need to show that they've significantly contributed to the business plan. They must all be actively involved in the day-to-day running of the business. And when it comes to settlements, they would need to meet their criteria individually. So what this means is if, for example, there's 2 innovator founders in a business, and one of them is relying on having generated at least 1 million for the business in the last full financial year, the second innovator founder cannot rely on the same 1 million to get settlement. They will need to show an additional 1 million. And once your visa is issued, the conditions on which you will be granted will be that you cannot access public funds. This is common to all routes, in fact. You can study, so you can pursue further studies in the UK once you're here. You can, of course, work for your own business or any businesses you've established. And the key change, which we mentioned briefly in the beginning, is that you can take supplementary employment for other businesses that you have not established, provided that the role is at least RQF level 3 or above. So this is about A-level, for those who know the system in the UK, or above. What this means is you don't need to have that qualification when you do that job, but the job needs to be pitched at that level. But as a general note, any further activities you undertake in the UK should not prevent you from making significant progress against your business plan goals, of course, because that is a condition of your endorsement. There are also some additional grounds that were introduced in the immigration rules last year on which your application could be refused. So that's where the Home Office has reasons to believe that you are subject of any serious civil or criminal investigations or proceedings for corruption or other financial crime or misconduct. If you are subject to non-criminal sanctions, so for example, if you've been disbarred from acting as a director or from carrying out any regulated activities, for example, financial activities in any country, that would also be considered a ground for refusing your application. And on that note, I'll pass you now to my colleague Tatiani, who's going to talk to you about some additional points that you need to know.
Thank you, Demetris.
No worries.
So in terms of eligibility for dependents, so the Innovator Founder Visa has 3 different eligible applicants to be your dependents in your application. That can be your spouse or your civil partner, your unmarried partner, noting that you must have been living together for 2 years in a relationship for at least 2 years on the date that you apply. And if you've not been living together for 2 years, then you must evidence that you are in a durable relationship for at least 2 years when you apply. Your children can be dependents in your Innovator Founder Visa application, either if they live with you, and unless they are, of course, away on studies, if they are at university or boarding school. They must not be married or in a partnership or in a civil partnership. It's important to understand that a dependent child has to be your child, which is under the age of 18, including if they're born in the UK during your stay, or your child over 18 if they're currently in the UK as your dependent. There are some additional evidence required for children aged between 16 to 18-year-old that you must show for your dependent children. That will be happy to guide you if that will be the case of your application. Now, there are some visa requirements with this application other than the ones mentioned by David and Demetris. So you must, as part of your application, meet the English language proficiency, which is a B level 2 in all these categories: in reading, writing, listening, and speaking, the maintenance requirement, and a tuberculosis test. So in terms of the English language, the Home Office needs to be satisfied that you are proficient in English. And this can be met in one of the following ways, either by having a degree taught in English, by passing a Home Office approved English language test, or by having an English qualification such as an A level if you studied at UK school before you turned 18. You automatically satisfy this requirement if you are a national of a majority English language speaking country, such as the US or Australia. It's good to note that the dependents do not need to meet the English language requirement, either if they apply with you or if they apply separately. Another requirement important to understand is the maintenance requirement. So for this, you must show savings of at least 1,270 in your bank account for 28 days interruptedly. If you have dependents, you need to show some additional savings of approximately 250 per dependent. In terms of a TB test, also, if you live in a country where TB testing is mandatory according to the UK immigration rules, you need to provide a certificate from a Home Office approved medical provider. Countries like India, Brazil, China, South Africa are some of the countries included in the TB test list. Now, in terms of the validity of the Innovator Founder Visa, there are 3 points to be covered. Initially, you'll be granted a period of 3 years if you're entering the UK once your visa has been approved. You can extend, you can switch to this route as well. So in terms of switching to this visa, this can be done from inside of the UK if you are in another route that will allow you to do that, in that case, if you are eligible. You have the option to request an extension for your stay for additional 3 years before your visa expires. It's important to note that if you extend your visa, your partner and your child's visa will not automatically be extended. They must apply for an extension as well. This route does provide the ability for settlement or indefinite leave to remain, as it's known. You can apply for settlement if you meet the criteria after the 3 initial years period. That is for the main applicant. Your dependents can only apply for settlement after 5 years. So your dependents first, they must extend their visa and then apply for settlement after 5 years. What is the application process for Innovator Founder Visa? So there are 2 ways. You can apply from overseas or you can apply from inside of the UK. If you're applying for an overseas and you are a non-EEA national, you will apply online, attend a biometric appointment to give your fingerprints, have your picture taken at the visa application center. If your application is successful, a visa vignette will be issued for 90 days and you must enter the UK during this period. Once you're in the UK, you have to collect your BRP card upon arrival. This process is expected to be fully digitalized by the end of 2024, according to the Home Office. So it might be easy for applicants overseas in the near future. If you are applying from inside the UK, the main difference is that the digital system is already in place, so no biometric appointment is required. You can simply use the Home Office app to scan your passport or your BRP and complete your application. And once your application has been approved, you will be issued with an electronic visa, so you will not have a BRP card. Processing times. So there are 3 different processing times that can be used in levels of service: standard, priority, and super priority. Expedited processes, they cost extra and they are subject to availability. Delays can happen and they're possible if, for example, you are invited for an interview or an additional interview with the UKVI, or if you have previous refusals. In terms of visa fees, these are the fees that you see in your screen. The cost of application is approximately between 1,200 and 1,500, depending whether you are applying from inside of the UK or if you're applying from overseas. Another fee payable is the immigration health surcharge, which is per year of visa duration. So, for example, your visa will be issued initially for 3 years. Without dependents, the health surcharge will be £1,035 times 3. The Innovator Founder Visa is not the only visa route available for entrepreneurs such as yourselves, considering the UK as an option. So there are other visa routes that we can assist you with, and I'll pass to Demetris and he will cover them briefly. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just turning the screen my way. Slide. So yeah, as Tatiani pointed out, there are more UK visa routes that you can explore if the Innovator Founder Visa just isn't right for you. So the first one we can talk about is a UK expansion worker. So this is for established overseas businesses that have been trading for at least 3 years overseas and just want to expand to the UK. One of the main conditions of this route is that you should not have any UK commercial presence when you apply. The overseas company will need to become a licensed sponsor first, which means you will become subject to UK immigration compliance rules for sponsors as a company. And then once the license is granted, you can sponsor a senior executive, and in many cases that will be yourself, and up to 4 more people to come to the UK to expand your business. When you do set up your business in the UK, it must be registered as a branch or a wholly owned subsidiary. And the expectation is that this UK business will be fully trading within 2 years. So once it begins trading, there are other options. You can apply to add additional categories to your license, such as skilled worker or global business mobility. And once you do, your expansion workers can convert their visas to either skilled worker or global business mobility. It is a slightly more prolonged route to settlement, but it's certainly a viable option. Alternatively, if you already have an individual based in the UK that doesn't require a visa to be here, and they can act as your key personnel on the sponsor license before you arrive, you can skip all the steps of the expansion worker routes, and you can register a UK company through them, and this person would need to be either an employee or an officer of the business, so a director, for example. And once you register the business, you can then sponsor yourself and any other workers that require a visa to work in the UK as skilled workers or global business mobility, in fact. But some of the requirements can be time consuming, so it may not be as easy as it sounds. So if you are a new business, you would need to show that you have a UK business bank account. And as of the last few years, banks conduct extensive due diligence, so that might become difficult. Or just take a little longer, in fact. But once you fulfill all the requirements, you can get a license for your organization and then sponsor anyone to come here. Another key difference, I suppose, with the Innovator Founder and the sponsored routes is that for any sponsored workers, including yourself, they would need to be paid a salary, which has to be above the prescribed thresholds in the UK immigration rules. So this is sometimes not very attractive because many founders choose not to pay themselves salaries until the business is fully viable. But if that's not an issue, then certainly this is an option. And another visa that might be interesting is the Global Talents. So this visa is for established leaders or emerging leaders in the fields of science, engineering, technology, medicine, and arts. So for this one, the endorsement is also required, but it's not your business idea that is assessed here by the endorsing bodies, rather your credentials. So you would need to show significant contribution to the advancement of your sector through your work, your publications, and activities outside of work. And for all applications, you would need letters of recommendation from established leaders in your field. And in some cases, you can even fast track the application. For example, if you have received a prestigious award. The Global Talents, much like the Innovator Founder route, is an accelerated route to settlement. So after 3 years, you can settle if you have been endorsed as Global Talent, as opposed to an emerging leader. So a lot of similarities there. And just because we don't want to bore you with more immigration, there are additional routes that we will be happy to take questions on that may be available to you. So there's UK Ancestry, there's the Youth Mobility Scheme and the High Potential Individual Visa, which was introduced last year. The last two are of temporary nature, so they're up to 2 or 3 years. But again, we are happy to take questions if you want to know more about those routes. So on that note, thank you for listening to us, and we will now pass this presentation to Divesh, who will be talking to you about global mobility trends.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will stop sharing as well.
Thank you so much, Demetris and Tatiani.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much for your thorough insights on how the immigration process works from start to finish. With regards to the Innovator Founder Visa, as well as the other routes that you've mentioned at the end for UK expansion. Wonderful. So as Demetris mentioned, if there are any questions, I would like to let the attendees know to write them in the Q&A section, and we will take them right after Divesh's presentation. And okay, so moving on to the next presentation, we have Divesh Sharma, as I mentioned, the founder and CEO of D Globalist. And he will be speaking on global business expansion opportunities and startup visa comparison. About Divesh, a trailblazer behind the eXrepreneur concept. Divesh is empowering founders to effectively drive businesses into the realm of borderless success. Before establishing D Globalist as the world's first global business mobility accelerator, Divesh honed his skills in the international arena, navigating intricate investments and operations within esteemed consulting firms such as Grant Thornton. He is going to address all of your aspiring eXrepreneurs today who have joined us on the global business mobility trends and a brief comparison on various startup visa programs. So yeah, over to you, Divesh, for an informative session.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. So very excited to be part of this webinar. First webinar on the Innovator Founder Visa, which is the new option available, as David, Tatiani, and Demetris has mentioned. So I'm going to talk about the very basic concept of why founders are moving and what an entrepreneur is. So starting with entrepreneur, it's a new term coined by us to define foreign founders. So we generally use immigrant founder as a term when anyone is looking beyond borders. So we thought of coining a term for these founders who are looking beyond borders. And that's what we call as an entrepreneur. So it's a new era, and the foundation was laid back in 2020 when pandemic happened. So we certainly started seeing a lot of traction on the international setups. There were a lot of founders looking to move out of the country, to set up their base, to expand abroad. And hence, we thought of working on the D Globalist, which is a global business mobility accelerator. So who is an entrepreneur? We define an entrepreneur as a limitless entrepreneur with a global mindset and someone who is looking beyond boundaries. So the key comparison between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur lies in the very fact that an entrepreneur does not limit himself or herself. They look beyond borders. They they enter into international markets. They challenge the competition in different territories fearlessly. Apart from that, there are many differences which we mapped out, including the reluctance to change, usage of technology, a very clear vision, which is a long-term vision. So next is about the stats of these foreign founders or entrepreneurs moving outside of the country and going to these three important nations, which includes UK as well, since the webinar focuses on UK. So the stats are very encouraging. Majority of the companies in UK, US, and Canada are founded by entrepreneurs. I'm talking about the billion-dollar houses, the unicorns. In UK, the entrepreneurs have contributed to over $3 billion and with 49% in numbers. So the key reasons of moving out of the country includes higher TAM. The market opportunity increased drastically. Whenever a company is moving out of the home country and looking into international markets, they look at funding opportunities. Like David has already covered how funding opportunities could be availed, how the connections could be provided through various routes in UK. Third important part, which is very crucial for any company, is to create a brand presence when they move out. So whenever you have international presence in multiple jurisdictions, that gives you a higher brand image as compared to being a local brand. Apart from that, there are other important aspects as well of why companies are moving out, including new learnings. As you enter into a new market, you learn more. You tend to deal with different set of customers, different set of partners, different set of people altogether, which gives you new learnings. And last but not the least is the geopolitical risk diversification. If you're only present in one country and there are regulations which can impact your business, so operating in multiple jurisdictions, you are covering the geopolitical risk as well. So everyone talks about success, and there are numerous success stories of foreign founders who have captured the world through innovation and new products. But I'm going to talk about failure first, that what could be the reason of failure. And I'm going to discuss a case of a company based out of US that what led to their failure. So when we studied this case, we realized that there are 4 important factors which could lead to the failure of a company when they look beyond borders. This include lack of market understanding. So HomeJoy was a US-based company. They started seeing traction in US and then they suddenly started expanding abroad. So they decided to expand into 3 different territories, including Canada, Germany, and UK. But they missed on few important factors which led to closure of their operations in these 3 territories very soon. So like I said, market understanding is very important. They failed to understand the market well. They failed to adhere to the compliances. I always say compliance is non-negotiable, especially when you deal with foreign governments. And as a foreign entrepreneur, you should not compromise on the compliances. Third important factor is they failed to understand the local competition. While they studied the competition on the macro level, they failed to realize that there are a lot of small players which were dominating the market in a very fragmented way. So they were outbeaten in terms of numbers by these players because there were so many of them. Last, but very, very important is the high customer acquisition cost. So they started hiring a lot of resources. Because of overstaffing, they had to pay to these resources in different countries, which again led to increase in the fixed costs, and ultimately they had to close the operations. So these are the 4 learnings from the failure. It's always good to learn from the failure so that you can imbibe the learnings, and when you go out, you can make sure that you're not repeating these mistakes which are done by somebody else. So next example we have taken is of Freshworks. Everyone knows this brand. It's one of the most known brand of India who went out and created a history. So Freshwork, very few of you would know that why did they went to US. The prime reason of them moving to US was a regulatory issue they were facing in the Indian market. There was no regulatory mechanism in India to provide recurring payment system. So they had to look beyond borders because of regulatory challenges. They wanted to capture the market. They had a solid product, but the regulatory challenge in India came out as a blessing in disguise for them. They started the company in US, and everyone knows that very recently they listed on NASDAQ. So as compared to HomeJoy, which failed miserably when they went out of their home country, Freshworks took care of the expansion really well. So we figured out 5 reasons that why did they succeed. First and very, very important is the cultural sensitivity and localization. They understood the customer sentiments very well before launching their product. And that happens when you start talking to your potential client base. Second is the robust product customization. So after taking the feedback, they customize their products according to the requirements of the customers. Third is the strategic global office placement. So they had centralized everything while decentralizing at the same time as well. They had created a global office which was taking care of all the international operations. They were in touch with the local offices globally. Fourth, which is again important, is the compliance. Like I said, compliance is non-negotiable. So they understood the compliances well, and they made sure that they are filing all the returns, fulfilling all the local regulatory compliances. Last is a customer-centric approach. When you deal with customer, it applies globally, whether you're dealing with a domestic market or internationally. They customize the product. They started speaking to the customers when they were new. They were constantly taking feedback by being on ground with the customers. So these are the important factors which you should consider when you take your business outside of your home country. As most of you are from India, I think it's one of the best use cases for you to study when you start planning your expansion. So over a period of time, we have held multiple startups in their expansion, and these are the learnings which I'm happy to provide. Why you should expand is important, but also it is important to know that what all factors should you consider when you are expanding. So you have to talk to existing founders who are there. Like David has mentioned, they've been helping entrepreneurs. So you should take the opportunity of talking to existing founders who have been there maybe on the earlier categories of Innovator Visa and Startup Visa. Even if they come from different backgrounds, different industry, they will give you the feedback of being a startup and being an international founder or an entrepreneur and running the business in a new territory. Next is talk to your potential client. Everyone knows it, but very few people actually go out and start talking to clients. Very often than not, founders in rush, they create companies without understanding the local market well. Then, of course, you can create a company very easily, and we are here to help you out with that. But what I suggest is before you create a permanent presence, the moment you open a company, the compliance triggers from day one. So before you go legal, you have to test your product by sitting remotely. And what could be a better scenario than we are right now? Everything can happen online, and you can talk to a client online, give a demo online, take their feedback online, and then thereafter you can plan your expansion. So proximity matters. Whenever you are looking to tap into a market, you have to go all in. And when you have to go all in, you have to be closer to your clients. So physical presence is very important. You have to have someone representing you in UK if you're looking to expand to UK, who can take care of the client interaction, whether the founder is looking to move himself, whether he's looking to hire somebody in UK who can talk to the clients and constantly improve the products according to the requirements. Next is very important. You have to start small. The example I gave of HomeJoy, they failed to start small. They hired so many people initially, and which led to increase in the fixed cost burden and ultimately the failure of the company. So my suggestion would be to hire only one person to start with, and then look for hiring of more people. Even the founder himself is moving. So that's good enough for the initial nascent period of the company corporation. Having a local partner really helps. Need not to be on a JV basis wherein you are diluting your equity. It could be a partner on the tech side. It could be a partner on the strategy side, which you can look for. Last, again, very important, you have to capture the market with speed, but at the same time, be patient when you are building your brand in an international territory. So I'm happy to mention that D Globalist is present in more than 10 countries, including UK, with a very strong network of professionals like Demetris and Tatiani, government bodies, endorsing bodies. They are becoming part of D Globalist, whether through a speaking opportunity or becoming part of the network itself. So when we deal with international mobility, we see a lot of challenges faced by entrepreneurs. These include additional cost of resources, lack of connections, secondary knowledge, long sales cycle. So we tried to overcome this by building a very strong network so that we can help these founders who are looking beyond borders. Our ecosystem is present in more than 10 countries, which provides a global opportunity to anyone who is getting connected with us. We try to decrease the cost by working on a success fee rather than charging upfront. When it comes to acceleration, we do not charge anything. Of course, we charge a fee when it comes to regulatory services like immigration or business setup. But we accelerate companies on success fee basis when they look at connections with the potential clientele in the target country. Apart from that, what we bring to our clients is the primary market insights. Everyone can search online, but it's important to have the on-ground reality, which is very different from what you can get online by a online search. Last is, whenever we take a client, we ensure that the journey is very smooth. We take care of the entire hand-holding throughout the expansion, including the corporate setup part, post-mobilization, making relevant connections in the target geographies. Very happy to mention that we are launching first cohort focusing on entrepreneur, starting from 1st of September. So we're going to have 40 slots in total. We will take 40 fast-growing companies which are looking at expansion, whether to UK or other parts of the world. Before we launch this, we're going to have 10 slots for companies which are looking at expansion and they need help in terms of building a strong clientele in different territories. So begin your journey with us, and we would be happy to create difference when you go outside of your home country. It's my pleasure to present this PPT to all of you. I know that it takes a hell of a courage when you start a business, and more courage when you take the business outside of the country. So wishing you all the best for the war you are in. You all are warriors, and we are here to support you all. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Divesh, for a great presentation and some valuable recommendations based on real life examples of businesses. I'm sure the eXrepreneurs that are with us today can really relate to the points you've brought up. So thank you. And now we will move on to the Q&A session for today. So I see that there are some questions that David has answered already earlier. I think we had two. So thank you, David. There are a few more I can see. So I'll just start with those. Puneet Mongia asks, would like to know more about the high potential individual visa. So I believe Demetris and Tatiani would be the best speakers to answer that.
Yeah. So the high potential individual visa effectively is a visa for graduates from the top 50 universities globally. And there's a list that is updated by the Home Office almost every year on what constitutes a top 50 university based on some rankings from, for example, the Times, etc. So as of the latest list that they have published, these are mainly universities in the US, so Ivy League universities. There are some in Australia, some in Canada, and I believe there's maybe some in the Asian region, so Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore. But we're happy to share that. So if you have graduated from one of those universities, then you can potentially apply for the visa. And if you've done a bachelor's or a master's degree, you get a 2-year visa. Or if you've done a PhD there, you get a 3-year visa. It's important to note as well that the list doesn't include UK universities, even though they generally, some of them are in the top 50 in the world. This is just universities outside the UK. And I think another thing to flag about the high potential visa is that it's a temporary visa, so it doesn't lead to settlement. And while it allows you to sort of be employed or self-employed, run a business, it's not a long-term solution. So eventually, at the end of the 2 or 3 years, you would need to consider other options. You would either need to get a sponsor license, you potentially might need to get an Innovator Founder Visa, and so on. So yeah, it is an option. And also to flag as well for UK university graduates, if you come here and study, you at the moment can then switch to the graduate visa, which is similar to the high potential individual. There's no restriction on where your university ranks on the list in order to get the graduate visa from the UK, but you can, after completing your studies, switch into the graduate visa and remain here and be employed or self-employed. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
I think there was another one as well on what is the continuous residence requirement for the 3-year period. It's probably, again, our domain. So the residence requirement for indefinite leave is effectively the same for all routes. So whether you're relying on the 3-year qualifying period because you meet the settlement requirements for the Innovator Founder Visa, then the absences would need to be less than 180 days in any 12-month period during those 3 years. So it's the same as if you were on a visa that leads to settlement after 5 years. But the any 12-month periods is not exactly the same as saying in fixed 12 months. So, for example, they're not just going to look at if you join in September 2024, they're not just going to look at your absences from September to September until you get ILR. They can look at any 12-month period over the 3 years to decide whether you've been away for more than 180 days. But just to flag as well, so when we're talking about the Innovator Founder Visa, of course, one of the requirements which we mentioned a few times during our presentation is that you need to be developing and executing your business plan. So being absent for even up to 180 days in a year, I personally would think that that may prevent you from carrying out your business plan. I'm not sure what David thinks about that, but it's certainly something to consider when you're here as an innovator founder. David, I see you have raised your hand.
Yes, I'd just like to add to that, which I didn't cover actually in my presentation, the very important progress checks that the endorsing bodies are required to do by the Home Office at 12 and 24 months once you've got your visa. So the progress checks are basically there to actually see if you've been spending all your time developing your business that you got your visa on. And therefore, if you've had large absences out of the country and so on, it's going to be difficult for you to meet the progress requirements at the necessary checkpoints. If the progress requirements aren't met, then the endorsement can be refused, can be rejected, and your visa could also be removed. So I can't emphasize myself that launching a new business in the UK, launching any new business, is a full-time commitment, and having other commitments or other interests or spending time away from it, it's going to be very difficult for you to progress it satisfactorily. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We actually have one more question, and it is quite in line with some questions that we've received via email before this webinar. So I'll just go with that one. It is to do with an existing innovative business in another country. If a founder is trying to replicate the same business model with changes specific to the UK market and is also scalable globally, does that business qualify for the endorsement?
The key test here is the word new. I mean, the title of the visa route is self-explanatory from that point of view. It's Innovator Visa Founder New Business. So the business has to be new to get anywhere on the endorsement of the visa route. If you're replicating a business that's already, even though it's successful overseas, then my suggestion then would be that you look at the I've forgotten what it's called now, the sole representative route, where you can apply for a 3-year visa to basically test your existing business out in the UK market. The innovator visa is not for that, really. The innovator visa is for completely new business ideas. If you have a business concept overseas, and it's still in the startup phase, so you may have developed the MVP, but it's not actually got to the commercialization stage, then I would suggest that could probably both class it in the new category and also provide a strong background for the fact that, you have a well-developed business idea which is not actually in the market yet. But you would also need to, of course, explain why you want to set that business up in the UK and why the UK would be a suitable launch pad to take it to the next commercialization stage. So I understand the confusion a bit in terms of what is new, what is not new. But the key thing is this visa is not to replicate existing established businesses overseas, even if they're successful. But there are other visa routes for that, like the sole representative route, which you may wish to look at, where you can send a senior person from the business to set up the business in the UK and test the UK market. This is very much for new businesses, new business ideas that have not been tried before, but you may have developed that idea to a point, but not commercialized it, and therefore that would still class as new.
Can I just add also a couple of points there on what David was saying? So indeed, there are other options which I briefly alluded to when I did my presentation. In fact, the sole representative visa is closed as of the last couple of years, but yeah, it has been replaced. Yeah. I thought it was something that I need to flag, but it has been replaced, and the new route is called the UK Expansion Worker, which I also mentioned in our last slide. So in fact, there are pros and cons to the new process, to the new route that was introduced. With a sole representative visa, there was a restriction at the time that you could not be a majority shareholder in order for you to get that visa and come here and expand the business. That restriction is now gone under the new routes. So this is great news for founders. But the key difference is that there are several steps to follow in order to get to the expansion stage. So as I said, the overseas business would need to show that it has been trading for at least 3 years before you pursue this route now, which, you know, for businesses that have been going on for a while, they have commercialized their products. That should be fairly straightforward. There are some exceptions for startups, but that's only for businesses registered in Australia or New Zealand because of some trade agreements the UK has with those countries. And they're looking to expand those exceptions as they sign more treaties. However, at the moment, if you are based in other countries, you need to be trading for 3 years overseas, and you cannot have any UK commercial presence at the point where you get the sponsor license application submitted and you send your expansion workers. So the 3-stage process is, first you get a license for your organization overseas, then you get your expansion workers, which could include your senior executives or yourself as a founder, to apply for the expansion worker visa. This visa is again temporary, so it's only issued for 1 year initially and can be extended for a further year. But within those 2 years, the Home Office expects you to actually begin trading in the UK. And what I also said before is that even though these 2 years won't count for settlements, or if you begin trading within the first few months, you can, of course, then convert your license to the skilled worker route. And then you can switch your visa to the skilled worker visa, which would then take you to settlement after 5 years. So yeah, in a way, it's a more prolonged process to settlement if that's ultimately your goal. But I feel that it's more flexible than the previous route. And also just to add, for the expansion worker license and route, the requirements are fairly similar to what the Innovator Founder route is. So you still need a business plan, you still need to have financial projections, you still need to have the skills and knowledge to carry it out, and the money to invest in your expansion in the UK. With the main difference is that your business doesn't need to be innovative, viable, and scalable. Those are not things you need to prove for this route. But it certainly is an option. And as I said earlier as well, if you also have people based in the UK already that don't need a visa to be here, you can skip all the expansion route steps. You can set up your business through that person that's based here, and they can then get the license in one of the routes that leads to settlement from the beginning, and they could sponsor you to come to the UK. And also another point which I want to repeat is that when you're a sponsored worker, whether you're the owner, founder, or anyone else, you need to be paying everyone a salary that has to be above the thresholds prescribed in the immigration rules, which again is something that many founders choose not to do, especially when they're setting up a new business. But if that's not an issue, then by all means. Sorry, back to you.
Thank you, Demetris, and thank you, David. Another question for David, actually. So in case of the checkpoints, what are the criteria do you use to assess whether significant progress has been made, say after 12 months or 24 months after the endorsement?
The checkpoints are aimed at seeing if the business has progressed as the applicant said they would progress it in their business plan. So the endorsing body would look at the business plan that they used to gain endorsement with, and see if things like, for example, product development, market development, sales targets, sales revenues, key indicators that they had in the business plan were on time and have been met. I mean, we all know that business plans are out of date the day they're written on, and once you launch a business, it never goes as it does. So it's not a precise art, but the thing the Home Office are looking for endorsing bodies to do is to see if progress is being made as the applicant said it would be, and if it's not, then what are the valid reasons for it, and are they going to be able to recover it? There is now a requirement as well for the endorsing body to actually visit the business premises of the applicant at either 12 months or 24 months. Personally, I would suggest it's more likely that would take place at 24 months because the first 12 months of launching a new business are, very tough, very challenging, and need a bit of flexibility. But by the end of 24 months, then they should be well on the way to progressing towards meeting the settlement criteria at the end of year 3, have the business established, and therefore have premises that they're operating from. But that is a new requirement of the of compliance. Basically, at the checkpoints, the endorsing bodies have to now visit the applicant in their business premises.
Thank you. And another question, a little similar to that one, would be in case of a business pivot, actually, or if there's any change after endorsement, how flexible is the endorsement process or the endorsing body, and what steps should the entrepreneurs take to communicate such change?
That's a good question, and I'm afraid I don't have any experience of that, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I mean, in under the old scheme, there were mechanisms for allowing people to test their business idea out, and if it didn't work, switch to another one on the approval of the endorsing body. I don't know if Demetris might know a better, what the situation is on there in terms of the sort of rules and regulations. But do you know?
Oh, sorry,
Demetris?
I thought you finished. I was going to but carry on.
Over to you.
Oh, sorry. All right. So this goes back to the criteria that you're assessed against when you apply for the Innovator Founder. So you would either need to be assessed under the new business criteria or the same business criteria. Now, what you're describing seems to fall more under the same business criteria. So what the rules say when they assess your application is that your business under the same business criteria must be either the one that was assessed at the endorsement application stage, or if there's been a shift in the sort of product or services that you're offering after the endorsement has been granted. This is something you need to be communicating to your endorsing body, and it's something that needs to be assessed at one of the checkpoints. So I did actually mention earlier, so for the same business criteria, your business idea must be the same either at the time that you got the endorsement or at a point where it was checked with the endorsing body. So David, I can see you have a hand up.
Yeah, just to round off on that, we do have instructions from the Home Office that at the checkpoints, we have to confirm that the applicant is pursuing the same business.
Okay.
Under the Innovator Founder, under the new business route for that particular Innovator Visa, we have to confirm that they're pursuing the same business that they were endorsed for.
Great.
The same business route is a little bit different again, because you're coming from somebody that has come through the startup route. But then I would suggest that because they've spent 2 years on a startup visa, they're unlikely to want to change their business idea, because when they get the same business endorsement, it's going to be on the basis that they've made a successful business out of the one that they got their startup visa for. So, but certainly that's one of the checkpoints under the new founder route is we have to confirm they're pursuing the same business.
There seem to be some discrepancies, as with many things in immigration policies and rules. I imagine this must be kind of one of them, where something might sound more flexible, but as David said, there are instructions towards the endorsing bodies to pursue the same idea. There's always the option of pursuing an endorsement for a new business idea, I suppose, David, if things shift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. The next question, more towards, for Demetris, what is the stay requirement for the Innovator Founder Visa applicants if the application gets approved?
I'm afraid I didn't hear the first part of the question. What is?
So once the application is approved for the Innovator Founder Visa, what would the stay requirement be like for
The conditions, effectively, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. So conditions are you need to be carrying out the business that you've been endorsed for. So that's always sort of ongoing and mandatory. The other condition is that you cannot claim public funds, as we've said. The other condition as well is that you can study if you want to study at a university or just pursue further studies in general in the UK. And the change that was introduced, which we also covered earlier, is that you can take another job. You can be employed for another business, provided that the role that you've been hired for is pitched at RQF level 3 or above, which is a fairly low level, so it's below degree level jobs. But having said that, again, a general condition of the visa is that you need to be developing and progressing your business that you've been endorsed for. So whilst you can do all these activities and whilst you can, in theory, get an additional job, I would say that that shouldn't prevent you from carrying out your business. And the other thing I would say is I believe there are some instructions in the policy for endorsing bodies. And David, you feel free to add to this, but it's my understanding that the additional job that the innovator founder undertakes should ideally be within the sector in which they operate. I don't know how the endorsing body would view someone who, for example, is an innovator founder but has a second job in something completely irrelevant. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, my interpretation has always been that the Home Office are basically looking for individuals to be spending all their working time in and on their new business. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for them to meet the checkpoint requirements and also to develop the business that they were endorsed on if they've got other business interests. So as an endorsing body, we would be looking really for a total commitment. As it's a new, you're launching a new business, it's a completely new business idea. I think, as an endorsing body, we would find it very difficult that individual could have enough time to do that and spend on other business ideas, even if they were allowed to. It's a bit of a grey area, but that would be our interpretation. We would be looking really for a complete commitment of that individual to making their new business a success. And if they've got other business interests, that could be difficult, or other employment, that could be difficult. I did think, and I have to check on this, and I was going to speak to you possibly about it afterwards, but I did think there was a requirement actually that the only earned employment they could have could come from their endorsed business.
So that's actually changed. Yeah, it used to be the case, but they made it slightly more flexible. I think it was not too long ago, just maybe a couple of months ago, when they just introduced a new, let's say, condition that you can work for. You can take another job, not just for the business you've established, just to supplement your income. For example, if you are struggling to make money through your business that you run. But as you've just said, David, it's really crucial to understand that this should not prevent you from furthering your business that you've been endorsed for.
Yeah, I mean, when we make our endorsement, we have to give a commitment to the Home Office that we believe the applicant, will be spending all their working time on developing their new business. So, we have made a commitment on our understanding that will be the case. But thanks for clarifying that. That's good. I think that's a useful. I think that's a positive move.
Yeah.
Divesh, I see something to add.
Yes, so I think we should also answer about the number of days required to be fulfilled, if there are any, in UK, because most of the founders, they have global businesses. Even if they're launching in UK, they would like to have a global clientele. And for that purpose, they keep on traveling. So what is the minimum time spent for UK for them to be eligible for ILR or for a continuation of the endorsement?
Well, for ILR, so I can take that part. Obviously, the visa is issued for 3 years, and it's an accelerated route to settlement. So provided that they meet the absences requirements, which we talked about earlier, 180 days in any 12-month period during those 3 years, that's fine. They have to also get the Life in the UK test, etc. In terms of the business aspects, the endorsement has to confirm at the settlement stage that you have met at least 2 criteria out of that list that we've shared earlier. So it's things like investing and spending 50K in your business, generating at least 1 million in revenue, creating at least 10 jobs. So provided you tick all these boxes and the endorsement confirms that you do, and it confirms that it's a sustainable business for the next 12 months, and you meet the visa requirements during those 3 years, then you can, of course, apply for settlement. But if you don't tick all the boxes, you can apply for an extension. You get a further 3 years. And obviously, because you only need 3 years as an innovator founder, if in year 4 or year 5 from your extension, you meet all those requirements, then you can rely on the last 3 years that you spent under the Innovator Founder Visa to get settlement. And on that note, perhaps I can add that you can also switch out of the Innovator Founder Visa if for whatever reason it just doesn't work out. And you can, for example, get a license for your business. You can sponsor yourself, you can sponsor other people. And you can combine time that you spent as innovator founder with a skilled worker visa, provided that your last visa, the one that you currently hold, is skilled worker, for example. Because if the visa you currently hold is innovator founder, you cannot combine time you previously held as a skilled worker before becoming an innovator founder. It's only visas that have followed the innovator founder that you can combine with it. So I don't know if, David, you have any additional thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I just, again, slight difference of interpretation. My understanding is that, I mean, we've done a number of settlement endorsements who've all gone on, I'm pleased to say, to successfully get settlement in the UK. So we have some experience of this. There are two key criteria. One is progress and one is achievements. Progress, you have to meet all the progress requirements. Achievements, you have to meet a minimum of 2 out of, I think, 6 or 7 options. So, for example, you could meet the employment achievement, you could meet the turnover achievement, you could meet the export achievement, and it is really worth, I think it's a good question, because it's really worth right at the outset thinking, is my business going to be able to meet these requirements in 3 years' time? And which of the achievements do I think my business is best to achieve? So, for example, one of them is IP, but if your business is going to struggle to get patents or design rights, which the Home Office regard as IP, not just domain names and stuff like that, then it might be better to look at one of the other one, which is the employment one and the turnover one. So it's good to be thinking about that, certainly during the first year of your visa. Which ones am I going to aim for? So you've got a bit of a visa strategy there as well as a business development strategy. The progress, all the progress ones you have to meet, but the achievement ones you only have to meet a minimum of 2 out of the 6 or 7. Our recommendation, though, is you try and meet as many of the achievement ones as you can, but there is a minimum of 2. I think the requirement is a minimum of 2.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't know if I didn't make that clear, but obviously in terms of achievements, you have many options to sort of meet, but you just need to meet 2 at the settlement stage. As you've pointed out, it could be the turnover, it could be export, it could be investment, job creation, and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's good to be thinking. Sorry, it's good to be thinking about it early on, though, not just when you come to year 3.
Of course not. Yeah, of course not. Of course not. Yeah.
Wonderful. So next one, we have a question for Divesh. So when it comes to business setups versus business expansion, what factors should businesses be looking at, as in what factors are required to be focused on when selecting a geography?
I think everyone is looking to expand business, most of the tech companies. So it's entirely a business decision. I mean, depending upon the opportunities they have in the target markets. Immigration is just a benefit given by the government in lieu of the benefit given by the startup founder to the government, which is filling the local gap. Why these programs are there is because not one government is self-sufficient to cater to all the local requirements. So UK is looking at bright entrepreneurs to come to UK and launch their businesses. But entirely, it's a business decision, and if it makes sense for the business purpose to go to UK, then UK is the right territory for you. Should not be that a country is offering a founder visa program and you're just going for that purpose. Because the requirements are such, after 3 years, you have to prove to the government that you've created jobs or, fulfill the criteria which revolves around business itself. So if not meeting those criteria, spending 3 years, it's a waste of time and efforts and money as well. So everything is around business. If you have a clientele in UK, go to UK. If you have a clientele in US, go to US. There are more than 30 countries offering entrepreneur visa programs, while UK is, of course, one of the most preferred choice. But if you're not getting qualified for the UK Innovator Visa and you do not see business opportunities in UK, then you can look beyond UK as well.
Great, thank you. One more question focused on the UK Innovator Founder Visa. What support can businesses expect from D Globalist with these applications?
Sorry,
Sure. So,
sorry.
David, you are saying something?
No, Divesh, please carry on.
Okay, perfect. So we remain the partner for all the founders when they expand abroad. Like I said, most of them have a global vision. So it's not only about UK. Even if somebody's creating their business in UK, they would look beyond UK. They would like to capture the European market and thereafter the North American market and then the Asian market. So we remain there throughout the global expansion with them, starting from the corporate advisory to mobility, to fundraising, as well as business acceleration. We have a global CXO board of industry leaders who very often help our startup founders in making the local connections, which are very important. Instead of cold reaching out to someone, we bring the warm connections in place. So we are one-stop solution for the global mobility. This is what I can say.
Wonderful. Well, another question specific to expansion anywhere, not just UK. So can businesses apply to multiple countries simultaneously? And would you help with the risk assessment of that company's setup, even in the UK, including the UK and other countries? Yeah.
I'm not too sure what the person means by multiple applications. If it is a visa application, I would not advise filing multiple startup visa applications because, like David has mentioned, the government is looking that you want to create a base in UK. You put substantial time towards your business in UK, which cannot be achieved when you are looking at multiple visa options globally. So it's a benefit which you're bringing to the government again, and in lieu of that, the government is giving you the PR or the visa, which cannot exist bifurcated into multiple jurisdictions at the same time. So it's not advisable if it is only about the visa. If the question is around the business setup itself, yes, you can create companies globally. To create a company is pretty easy, but to close one is difficult. So I would advise to think twice before you go legal into any country.
Right. And as David mentioned, that a specific business plan is required to be made for this application. Is it different from a regular business plan created by companies, or if it is different, would the D Globalist team? I mean, can we get any help?
So the idea has to come from the founder, right? We can provide resources as to the local knowledge in terms of research. We can provide knowledge in terms of the competition mapping, the financial projections as well. But we can't just change the idea for the purpose of business. So of course, the help is there. We regularly help companies in finalizing the business plan. As we also raise funds with them, we connect them with the investors. So it has to have a strong business proposition. And then we are, of course, there to provide advisory on what are the new opportunities which could be covered in the business plan, what are the areas which could be improved. But again, the business comes from the founder himself or herself. Business plan is just a write-up about the future success story, which the founder is positioning to the potential investor or the government body.
Yes.
Deb, you want to?
Yeah, can I just add to that? Absolutely right. The business plan and idea has to be original and in the ownership of the applicant. Absolutely right from that point of view. The other relevant point is that endorsing bodies are going to be looking at viability as one of the key criteria. Viability is in terms of the financial presentation that is in the business plan and whether that makes sense and supports things like the sales growth figures and so on, and product development. But also a very important point is that the endorsing body has to look and see if the applicant has the relevant background and experience and qualifications to deliver the business. So for example, if your background is and experience is in e-commerce and you're trying to launch a business based on nuclear physics, then you might not have the relevant background to actually be able to deliver it. But there is a very serious point here is, part of the viability test is, does the applicant have the relevant background, experience and qualifications to be able to deliver the business that they're seeking endorsement on. So I just wanted to add that.
Wonderful. Those were all the questions we had for today. I'd like to thank, first of all the panelists for wonderful presentations. I hope that all the knowledge that you've shared with us has been helpful for all of our attendees, and you've given them a lot to think about. Well, UK, as we know, is certainly a key market, and now we have a better idea on ways to capture it, various ways. We would like to also mention that even though today's session was focused on the Innovator Founder Visa, there are other ways to expansion even in the UK. So if you would like to know more about them, and to know more about the Innovator Founder Visa as well, if there are any additional points that you need clarification on, please get in touch with us at D Globalist, and we can evaluate all the choices together. We also, of course, have Demetris and Tatiani to answer any of the questions with regards to immigration. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today, even on a weekday. And we look forward to hosting you again soon with this series of webinars that we're doing focused on some key regions for business expansion. So thank you all, and have a lovely evening. Thank you, Demetris.
Thank you, Divesh. Thank you, David.
Thank you,
Yes.
David.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone attending.
Yeah,
have a good day. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.